My name is Nanette Wyatt, and I'm 27 years old. 3 years ago, my parents threw me out of their house in the middle of a February snowstorm. I was 6 months pregnant. My father wouldn't look at me. My mother packed my things in trash bags and left them on the porch. They didn't ask where I would go. They didn't ask if I had money. They just closed the door. What they didn't know then, what they couldn't have known, was that the person they called a failure, the veteran brother they'd always pitied, would become the only father my daughter would ever need. They didn't know that 3 years later, when the truth about my daughter's biological father came out, everything they believed about honor, about family, about what makes someone worthy, would shatter. This is the story of how I lost everything and found out what family really means. It started 14 months before that February night, March 2020. I was 23 years old, working night shifts at Ruby Memorial Hospital in Morgantown, West Virginia. I'd been a registered nurse for 2 years, my dream job, the thing I'd worked so hard for. Student loans hung over me like a shadow, but I was proud. I'd made it out. I was the first person in my family to finish college. I met Brennan Sullivan in the hospital cafeteria on a Tuesday afternoon. I was between shifts, drinking bad coffee and trying to stay awake. He walked in wearing a suit that probably cost more than my monthly rent, and he smiled at me like I was the only person in the room. "Rough shift?" he asked. I should have known better. We started dating a month later, April 2020. Brennan was a pharmaceutical sales rep for Pfizer, polished, charming, the kind of man who opened doors and ordered wine without looking at the price. He drove a BMW that was newer than any car my family had ever owned. He took me to restaurants where I had to Google the menu beforehand because I didn't recognize half the dishes. I felt like Cinderella. And I was terrified he'd realize I was still wearing glass slippers made of poverty. He never took me to his house. "Family's old-fashioned," he said. "They need time to warm up to new people." When I asked to meet them after 6 months, he kissed my forehead and said, "Soon." I told myself it was fine. I told myself he just wanted to keep us private, sacred, just ours. But when your boyfriend has money and you don't, private starts to feel like secret, and secret starts to feel like shame. When I asked to meet his family after 14 months, he still said soon. My family lived in a 2-bedroom apartment in Westover, the kind of neighborhood where people work 2 jobs and still can't quite make it. My father, Dennis, drove 40 minutes each way to work at the Amazon warehouse. My mother, Sharon, worked part-time at Walmart because they kept her hours just below 30 a week, so they wouldn't have to give her full benefits. They'd sacrificed everything for me to go to nursing school. Everything. One Sunday, I brought Brennan home for dinner. My mother made her special meatloaf, the one she only made on birthdays, and my father sat at the head of our small table, trying to make conversation with this man who probably spent more on his watch than we spent on groceries in a month. After Brennan left, my mother pulled me aside in the kitchen. "Just be careful, honey," she said, drying the same dish 3 times. "Boys like that. They don't marry girls like us." I laughed it off. I should have listened. May 2021, 14 months into our relationship. I stared at the pregnancy test in the bathroom of my apartment, the one I shared with 2 other nurses to split the rent. 2 pink lines, clear as day, 6 weeks along. My hands shook, not from fear, from something else, something that felt like hope. Brennan loved me. He'd said it. He'd talked about the future, about someday and when we're ready. This wasn't planned, but we'd figure it out. Together. I called him. "Can you come over? We need to talk." He arrived 20 minutes later, still in his work clothes. I led him to the living room, sat him down, took his hands. "I'm pregnant." The color drained from his face. He pulled his hands back slowly, like I'd burned him. Are you sure? Yes. 6 weeks. Silence. 10 seconds that felt like 10 years. I need time to think, he said finally. Not, we'll figure it out. Not, it'll be okay. Just, I need time to think. He stood up, kissed my forehead, automatic, empty, and left. He didn't hold my hand as he walked to the door. When I saw the 2 pink lines, my first thought wasn't fear. It was, he'll do the right thing. He loves me. I was so wrong. 1 week. He didn't respond to my texts. Didn't answer my calls. I sent 27 messages. Please talk to me. We can figure this out. I'm scared. Please. Nothing. On day 8, I drove to his apartment. His BMW was in the parking lot. The lights were on. I could see the TV flickering through the curtains. I knocked. 5 times. 10 times. He was inside. He just wouldn't answer the door. I didn't know it then, but 3 days earlier, Brennan's mother had seen a text from me on his phone. Please talk to me about the baby. His family had called an emergency meeting. His mother, Diane. His younger sister, Addison. Their family lawyer. They sat Brennan down in their mansion in South Hills, the nice part of town, the part where people like me only went to clean houses or deliver packages. She's trying to trap you, his mother said. This is what girls like that do. They get pregnant on purpose to get money. That's not what this is, Brennan said weakly. Nanette isn't like that. She's a nurse, his sister added. She makes, what, $50,000 a year? You make twice that. This is her lottery ticket. The lawyer slid a folder across the table. We offer $15,000 and a non-disclosure agreement. She signs it, she goes away. You never hear from her again. Most girls in her situation take it. Brennan looked at the folder for a long time. Okay, he said. His mother said, she's trying to trap you. And he believed her. Or maybe he just wanted to. 3 weeks after I told him I was pregnant, Brennan finally called. We need to talk. He asked me to meet him at the Walmart parking lot. Not a restaurant. Not his place. The Walmart where my mother worked. I should have known then. He was waiting in his car. I got in. He didn't kiss me hello. He handed me an envelope. Inside, a check for $15,000. And a legal document. I read the first line. Non-disclosure agreement. What is this? It's better for both of us, he said, not looking at me. You can start fresh. I'm not ready to be a father. This way, you have options. Security. I flipped through the pages. Agrees to never contact Brennan Sullivan. Agrees to not disclose paternity. Agrees to not pursue child support. You want to pay me to pretend you don't exist? This is more than generous, Nanette. I stared at him. This man I'd loved. This man who'd held me and told me I was beautiful and made me believe, for the first time in my life, that someone from his world could want someone from mine. I don't want your money, I said. I want you to be responsible. I am being responsible. $15,000. I ripped the check in half, slowly, watching his face. Keep your money, I said. But this baby will know who their father is, and one day, they'll know you chose money over them. His jaw tightened. You're making a mistake. You can't do this alone. Watch me. I got out of the car. He didn't follow. I ripped the check in half and said, You can't buy me. He looked relieved. Like I'd just made his life easier. I drove straight to my parents' apartment. It was 8 p.m. on a Thursday. My father was watching TV after his shift. My mother was folding laundry. I sat down on the couch between them. I'm pregnant, I said. Brennan. He's gone. He's not coming back. Silence. My father stared at the TV screen, but I could tell he wasn't seeing it. My mother's hands froze on the towel she was folding. You're keeping it? My father said finally, like Harper was a problem. not a person. Yes. More silence. My mother stood up, walked to the kitchen, came back. She wasn't crying. She was rigid, controlled. Have you thought about other options? She asked carefully. You mean abortion? I mean, options. I'm keeping my baby. My father stood up, walked to his bedroom, closed the door. My mother looked at me with something I'd never seen before. Not anger, disappointment. The kind that cuts deeper than any insult. How could you let this happen? She whispered. Let this happen. Like I'd planned it. Like I'd done it alone. Mom, I didn't. You knew he was rich. You knew his family was important. And you still. How could you be so careless? I loved him. He said he loved me. She laughed. One short, bitter sound. Men like that don't love girls like us, Nanette. They use us, and you let him. My father said, You're keeping it? Like Harper was a problem, not a person. They didn't kick me out that night. That would have been easier. Instead, they gave me the silent treatment. 2 weeks of living in that apartment where no one would look at me, where my father left the room when I entered, where my mother only spoke to me when absolutely necessary. Pass the salt. Your laundry is done. Lock the door when you leave. I tried everything. I cooked my father's favorite meals. I helped with every chore. I worked double shifts and gave them extra money for rent. Nothing. I made my father his favorite dinner one night. Meatloaf, mashed potatoes, corn. He ate in silence, got up, put his plate in the sink, and left the table without a word. I stood in that kitchen, 6 months pregnant, and cried into the dirty dishes. It happened on a Tuesday in early February. 6 months pregnant. Snow had been falling all day, the wet, heavy kind that turns everything gray. I came home from my shift at 8 a.m. My mother was waiting in the living room. Trash bags lined the hallway. My trash bags. My things. Mom? You need to leave, she said. Her voice was flat. Empty. What? My father appeared in the doorway of their bedroom. He wouldn't look at me. You heard your mother. Dad, please. I don't have anywhere to go. You should have thought of that before. Before what? Before I got pregnant? Before the man I loved abandoned me? Before I needed my family? You're no longer our daughter, he said. Those words. I'll hear them until I die. My mother stood up, handed me my purse. Your things are on the porch. We'll mail anything else. It's snowing. I'm 6 months pregnant. Where am I supposed to go? That's not our problem anymore. I looked at my father, begged with my eyes for him to say something, to stop this, to be my dad. He turned and walked back into his bedroom. My mother opened the front door. Cold air rushed in. Snow swirled. Please, I whispered. She looked at me, really looked at me, for the first time in weeks. And I saw it. She was crying. Silent tears running down her face. But she didn't stop. She gestured to the door. I picked up the trash bags. 4 of them. My entire life. I walked out into the snow. The door closed behind me. I heard the deadbolt slide into place. I sat in my car outside Russell's trailer at 11 p.m., snow falling, phone dying, and realized I had just lost my entire life in 3 weeks. I sat in my car in the parking lot, shaking, not from the cold, from something else, something that felt like breaking. I had $643 in my bank account, a car with a check engine light that had been on for 3 months, and a baby due in 3 months. I called the only person left, Russell, my brother, 5 years older than me, Marine Corps veteran, 2 tours in Afghanistan, PTSD that the VA barely helped with, living in a trailer on the outskirts of town, the brother my parents called the troubled one, the one they pitied. The phone rang 4 times. I almost hung up. Nan? His voice was rough. I'd woken him. I'm sorry, I didn't know who else to call. What's wrong? Can I come over? 15-minute drive to his trailer. The longest 15 minutes of my life. He was standing on the porch when I pulled up. Flannel shirt over a white t-shirt, jeans, boots unlaced. He'd been asleep, but he was waiting. I got out of the car, stood there in the snow with my trash bags. He looked at me, at my belly, at the bags. He didn't ask questions, just said, "Come on." He took the bags from my hands, led me inside. The trailer was small. 1 bedroom, tiny kitchen, living room with a couch that had seen better days. But it was warm, and it was clean. He put the bags down, went to the kitchen, came back with a mug of tea. "Sit," he said. I sat, started crying, couldn't stop. He sat next to me, didn't touch me, didn't speak. Just sat there while I broke down. When I finally caught my breath, I said, "I'm sorry. I didn't know where else to go." "Don't apologize. They kicked me out. Mom and Dad. They closed the door." He was quiet for a long moment. Then, "You're safe here." "Russell, I can't." "You're safe here," he repeated. Firm, final. "For as long as you need. I don't have money. I can't pay you. I can barely—" "Did I ask you for money?" "No, but—" "Then stop. You're my sister. You're home." He made me tea. He didn't ask questions. He just said, "You're safe here." And for the first time in weeks, I believed something. Russell gave me his bedroom. "I'll take the couch," he said. "I can't take your bed." "Nanette." He looked at me, really looked at me, and I saw something in his eyes I hadn't seen in years. Purpose. "You're 6 months pregnant. You're not sleeping on a couch." End of discussion. That first night, I lay in his bed, sheets that smelled like laundry detergent and something else, something that smelled like safety, and stared at the ceiling. I could hear him in the living room, the TV on low, him shifting on the couch, trying to get comfortable. At 3 a.m., I heard him cry out, "A nightmare." I got up, cracked the door open. He was sitting up, drenched in sweat, hands shaking. He saw me watching. "I'm fine," he said. "Go back to bed." I wanted to ask about the dreams, about Afghanistan, about the ghosts that followed him home, but I just said, "Thank you." He nodded. "Lay back down." And we both pretended we were fine. He gave me his bed. He worked 12-hour days. And when I said, "I'm sorry," he said, "Don't. You'd do the same for me." And I realized he was right. I went back to work 3 days later. I had to. The money I'd saved was disappearing fast, and I still had student loans. $315 a month that wouldn't stop, just because my life had. Night shift. 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. 3 nights a week. On my feet for 12 hours, 6 months pregnant. My back screamed. My feet swelled until I couldn't wear my normal shoes. I kept a bucket in the break room because I'd throw up at least once a shift. And my coworkers, they talked. They thought I couldn't hear them, but I could. "Did you hear about Nanette? Got knocked up by some rich guy. I heard he paid her off and she still wouldn't go away. Guess she thought she could trap him." At 3 a.m. one night, I threw up in the staff bathroom. When I came out, one of the other nurses, a woman who'd always been friendly to me before, was washing her hands. She looked at my belly, then at me. "You should have been more careful," she said. I wanted to scream at her, to tell her I was careful, to tell her that love isn't careful, that trust isn't careful. Instead, I went back to work. At 3 a.m., I threw up in the staff bathroom. A coworker walked in, looked at my belly and said, "You should have been more careful." I wanted to scream. Instead, I went back to work. Russell worked as an electrician. His own small business, jobs he picked up through word of mouth and Craigslist. Some weeks were good, some weeks were slow. But after I moved in, he worked every single day, 7 days a week. 12-hour shifts when he could get them. He never complained, never made me feel like a burden. But at night, I heard him. 2, 3 times a week, he'd wake up screaming. Names I didn't recognize. Davies. Ruiz. Get down. I'd lie in his bed, listening, heart pounding. Should I go to him? Would that make it worse? One night he screamed so loud I ran out. He was sitting on the couch, head in his hands, shaking. Russell. I'm fine. Automatic. Practiced. Go back to bed. You're not fine. Nanette. He looked up. His eyes were hollow, exhausted. I'm dealing with it. I've been dealing with it for 5 years. Don't worry about me. You're taking care of me. Let me take care of you. You can't fix this. Not angry. Just tired. So tired. No one can. Later, I looked up the names. Marine Corporal James Davies, Lance Corporal Miguel Ruiz, both killed in action, Afghanistan, 2015. Russell never talked about it. One night he screamed a name, Davies. I looked it up later. Marine Corporal James Davies, KIA Afghanistan, 2015. Russell never talked about it. The trailer park where Russell lived wasn't large, maybe 30 trailers, most of them occupied by people like us, people working hard and barely making it. Most people minded their own business. But there was one woman, Mrs. Kowalski, 70s, gray hair always in curlers, nothing better to do than watch from her window. One afternoon, I was taking out the trash when she called out from her porch. You're Dennis Wyatt's girl, aren't you? Yes, ma'am. Living here with your brother now? Yes, ma'am. She looked at my belly. Then at Russell's trailer. Something calculating in her eyes. That unstable veteran, she said, with PTSD, and you're bringing a baby here? My blood went cold. My brother is a good man. I'm sure he is, honey. That smile, fake concern. But someone should probably let Child Protective Services know about the situation, just to make sure the baby's safe. She said it sweetly, like she was doing me a favor. The woman smiled when she said it, like she was doing me a favor. 2 weeks later, there was a knock on the trailer door. I was 8 months pregnant. Russell was at work. A woman in a pantsuit stood on the porch, clipboard in hand. Nanette Wyatt. Yes? I'm Laura Patterson from Child Protective Services. May I come in? My heart stopped. She walked through the trailer, taking notes. Looked in the bedroom. The crib Russell had built by hand, painted white, still drying. The purple elephant I'd found at Goodwill for $3. The stack of baby clothes, all secondhand but clean. You're living here with your brother, Russell Wyatt? Yes. And he's a veteran with PTSD? He served 2 tours in Afghanistan. Yes, he has PTSD. He's managing it. Does he own any weapons? He's a veteran. He has guns, but they're locked in a safe. Does he have violent episodes? No. Never. She wrote something down. I couldn't see what. Has he been treated for his PTSD? He goes to the VA clinic when he can. When he can? She looked up. Is his income stable? He's a licensed electrician. He works every day. But is it stable? I wanted to scream, to tell her that Russell had given up everything for me, that he was the only person who hadn't abandoned me, that he was good and kind and safe. But I just stood there, 8 months pregnant, in a trailer that wasn't mine, and watched her write notes that might take my baby away. We'll be monitoring the situation, she said at the door. Someone will be in touch. She wrote something on her clipboard and said, We'll be monitoring the situation. Like we were criminals. When Russell came home that night, I was sitting on the couch, staring at the wall. What happened? He asked immediately. CPS came. He went still. What? I told him everything. The questions, the notes, the way she'd looked at his trailer like it was a crime scene. He sat down slowly, rubbed his face with both hands. This is my fault, I said. I brought this to your door. If they take my baby because of me, stop. His voice was hard, final. They're not taking her. Russell, if they think you're dangerous, I'm not dangerous. I've never hurt anyone who didn't deserve it. I've never lost control. Not once. And I won't. He looked at me, and I saw something I hadn't seen since he came back from Afghanistan. Purpose. They're not taking her, he repeated. I'll do whatever it takes. He looked at me, and I saw something I hadn't seen since he came back from Afghanistan. Purpose. February 15th, 2022, 4 a.m. My water broke. I woke Russell up. He was dressed in 30 seconds, had me in the car in 2 minutes. The hospital was 25 minutes away. He made it in 18. Labor lasted 14 hours. 14 hours of pain that rewrote everything I thought I knew about pain. 14 hours of Russell in the waiting room, refusing to leave, refusing to eat, just waiting. My blood pressure spiked in hour 12. The nurses got worried, talked about C-section. Just a little longer, I begged. Please. Hour 14. 6:03 p.m. Harper Wyatt entered the world screaming. 6 pounds, 3 ounces. A full head of dark hair. Tiny fists waving. They put her on my chest, skin to skin. She opened her eyes and looked at me, and I understood for the first time what it meant to love something more than your own life. She's here, I whispered. You're here. When they put Harper in my arms for the first time, I looked at her face and thought, I would do it all again. Every single bit of pain. For you. They let Russell come in after I was cleaned up. After Harper was weighed and measured and wrapped in that hospital blanket with the pink and blue stripes. He stood in the doorway. Still in his work clothes. He'd come straight from a job when I called. Hands shoved in his pockets. Come here, I said. He walked over slowly, looked down at Harper in my arms. 30 seconds of silence. Then, she's perfect. His voice cracked on the word. Do you want to hold her? He nodded. Couldn't speak. I put Harper in his arms. He held her like she was made of glass. His hands were shaking. Harper wrapped her tiny hand around his finger. The way babies do. That instinctive grip. And Russell started crying. I'd never seen him cry. Not once. Not even at our grandfather's funeral. Not even when he came back from Afghanistan with ghosts in his eyes. But he cried holding my daughter. I've got you, little one, he whispered. I've got you. He whispered. I've got you, little one. I've got you. And I knew. Harper had 2 protectors now. The Family Medical Leave Act guaranteed me 12 weeks off. Unpaid. 12 weeks with 0 income. I had some savings. $600. Russell's VA disability helped. $524 a month. He was working 7 days a week now, bringing in maybe $3,000 a month when work was good. Rent, $425. Utilities, $150. My student loan, $315. Car insurance, $90. Food, $200 if we were careful. We were so careful. Ramen noodles 4 times a week. The heat turned down to 62 degrees. I wore 2 sweatshirts instead of turning it up. We bought diapers at the dollar store. Formula. Thank God I could breastfeed, because formula was $40 a container. Russell stopped buying lunch. Started bringing peanut butter sandwiches to job sites. I watched him get thinner. Watched the circles under his eyes get darker. You need to eat more, I said one night. I'm fine. You're not. Nanette. He looked at me while rinsing his dinner plate. I'm fine. Stop worrying about me. But I couldn't. I held my daughter and counted diapers to make sure we had enough for the week. This was love. And it was hard. 12 weeks after Harper was born, I went back to work. I had to. The bills hadn't stopped. The loans hadn't stopped. Life hadn't stopped. Harper was 12 weeks old. 3 months. Still so small. Still only sleeping 2 hours at a time. Russell worked evening shifts now so he could watch Harper during the day while I slept. Then I'd wake up at 5 p.m., take over, and go to my night shift at 7 p.m. Russell would come home at midnight, take over again. We were ships passing in the night. My first shift back, I cried the entire drive to the hospital, cried in the parking lot, cried in the locker room while changing into my scrubs. "You okay?" another nurse asked. "Fine," I lied. I wasn't fine. My body still hurt. My breasts were engorged. I had to pump every 3 hours in a storage closet that smelled like bleach. My arms felt empty without Harper in them. But at 7:02 p.m., I clocked in, put on my nurse face, and went to work. When I got home at 7:30 a.m., Harper was asleep on Russell's chest. Both of them breathing in sync. Peaceful. He'd done it. He'd kept her safe all night. The first night I left Harper with Russell, I cried the entire drive to the hospital. But when I got home at 7 a.m., she was asleep on his chest. Both of them peaceful. He'd done it. Harper was 9 months old when it happened. I'd given her toast with peanut butter. Just a tiny bit. Trying to introduce allergens the way the pediatrician said. Within 5 minutes, her face was swelling. Red hives spreading across her skin. She was crying, but the cry was wrong. Strained, wheezing. "Russell!" He was next to me in seconds. Took one look at Harper. "Hospital. Now." We were in the car in 30 seconds. Emergency room in 8 minutes. Anaphylaxis. Severe peanut allergy. They gave her epinephrine. She stabilized. Started breathing normally. The swelling went down. The doctor wrote a prescription for 2 EpiPens. "She'll need to carry these everywhere. Any exposure to peanuts could be fatal." At the pharmacy, I handed over the prescription. "That'll be $650. I stared at her. "What? $650? Your insurance doesn't cover the full cost." I had $362 in my checking account. I don't have that." "We can call your insurance. They won't cover it. I already hit my deductible." "Then I'm sorry, but my daughter will die without this. If she's exposed to peanuts again and we don't have this, she'll die." "I understand, but I can't." Russell appeared next to me. I didn't even realize he'd walked away. He put a stack of 20s on the counter. $6.83, he said. I stared at the money, then at him. "Russell, where?" "It's taken care of." We got the EpiPens. Got in the car. Harper fell asleep in her car seat, exhausted from the ordeal. "Where did you get that money?" I asked. He was quiet for a long time, then, "Pawn shop." "You pawned something?" "What did you—" "It doesn't matter." "Russell. My grandfather's rifle, the one from World War II. It's fine. That was the only thing you had left from him. Harper's alive. That's what matters." He handed me the cash, $683 from the pawn shop. I said, "That was your grandfather's." He said, "Harper's alive. That's what matters." February 15th, 2023. Harper's first birthday. We didn't have money for a party. No room for guests anyway. So it was just the 3 of us in that trailer. Russell made pancakes shaped like Mickey Mouse. Or tried to. They looked more like amoebas. But Harper didn't care. I stuck a single candle in one of them. We sang Happy Birthday off-key. Harper clapped her hands and laughed, and I took a video on my phone that I've watched 1,000 times since. No fancy decorations, no guests, no cake from a bakery. But Harper was happy and healthy, and loved. And I realized this was family. Not the one I'd planned, not the one I'd dreamed about when I was younger, but the one that stayed. It was just the three of us. No fancy decorations, no guests. But when Harper clapped her hands and laughed, I thought, this is enough. 2 weeks after Harper's first birthday, Ms. Patterson from CPS showed up for her final visit. She'd been checking in every few months, announced and unannounced visits, inspections, questions. This time, she stayed for an hour, watched Russell play with Harper on the floor, building blocks, making her laugh. Harper adored him, called him Dada, her first word. Not that Brennan deserved the title, but Russell did. Ms. Patterson sat down with me at the kitchen table, wrote some final notes. Ms. Wyatt, I'm closing your case. I couldn't breathe. What? You've demonstrated that you can provide a safe, stable environment for Harper. Your brother? She looked over at Russell, who was now making silly faces while Harper giggled. He's clearly competent and caring. I see no reason for further monitoring. So we're done? You're done. She smiled, a real smile this time. You're doing well, both of you. After she left, Russell sat down on the couch and put his head in his hands. He didn't say anything. He didn't have to. After she left, Russell sat down and put his head in his hands. He didn't say anything. He didn't have to. But something was wrong. Russell was working 7 days a week, 12, 14-hour days. He was losing weight. The circles under his eyes were getting darker. He'd missed his last 3 VA appointments. Too busy, he said. Can't afford to take the time off. The nightmares were worse. 4, 5 times a week now. Sometimes he didn't sleep at all. I'd wake up at 3 a.m. to find him sitting on the porch, staring at nothing. Russell, you need to see your doctor. I'm fine. You're not sleeping. I said I'm fine. One morning, I found him asleep at the kitchen table, still in his work clothes from the day before. His hands were shaking. Russell? I'm fine, he said automatically. But I knew he wasn't. One morning, I found him asleep at the kitchen table, still in his work clothes from yesterday. His hands were shaking. I'm fine, he said. But I knew he wasn't. August 2024. Harper was 2.5 years old. I was at the grocery store with Harper in the cart. She was singing Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star at the top of her lungs, making me laugh. I turned down the cereal aisle and froze. Brennan Sullivan stood at the end of the aisle holding a box of Special K, staring at us, at Harper. His face went white. She looked like him. I'd noticed it as she got older. The blonde hair, the blue eyes, the shape of her nose. In pictures, you could see it. In person, it was undeniable. Nanette, he said. I grabbed the cart handle tighter, put myself between him and Harper. Don't, I said. I just want to talk. You have nothing to say to me. Please. 5 minutes. Harper looked up at him, curious. Who that, Mama? No one, baby. Brennan's face twisted, hurt or guilt or both. Please, he said again. Coffee. Just, please. I should have walked away. I should have taken Harper and left. But I was curious. What could he possibly have to say after 3 years? Starbucks, I said. Saturday, 10 a.m. You get 5 minutes. He looked at Harper and said, She's beautiful. Like he had any right to an opinion. Saturday morning. Russell stayed home with Harper. I drove to Starbucks alone. Brennan was already there. He'd aged. Or maybe I just hadn't looked at him clearly before. Lines around his eyes, gray hair at his temples. He stood when I walked in, pulled out my chair like this was a date. I sat. Didn't order anything. 5 minutes. Thank you for meeting me. 4 minutes and 50 seconds. He exhaled. I'm sorry. For what? Specifically? For everything. For abandoning you. For the NDA. For not being there. Okay. Anything else? I want to be part of her life. I laughed. Actually laughed out loud. You've got to be kidding. I'm serious. I made a mistake. A huge mistake. And I want to fix it. It's been 3 years, Brennan. 3 years. You don't get to just show up now. I know. But my father passed away. Pause. I hadn't expected that. I'm sorry. He left a will. With conditions. And there it was. What kind of conditions? I have to establish paternity and financial responsibility for any children I've fathered within 90 days. The world came into sharp focus. How much? I asked quietly. What? How much do you stand to inherit? That's not what this is about. How much? He looked away. $8 million, plus controlling stake in my father's dealerships. $8 million. I stood up. Where are you going? You want $8 million. Harper's just the price you have to pay. That's not fair. You know what's not fair? You get to walk away for 3 years. You get to pretend she doesn't exist. And then Daddy dies and suddenly you want to play father? You're not her father. You're a sperm donor who needs a stamp of approval to cash a check. Nanette, please. Stay away from my daughter. I walked out. He said, I want to be her father. And I laughed. Actually laughed. You want $8 million. Harper's just the price you have to pay. I called legal aid the next Monday. I need help. My daughter's biological father abandoned us for 3 years. Now he wants custody because of an inheritance. I don't have money for a lawyer. They connected me with Victoria Hayes, pro bono attorney from a firm in Pittsburgh. 38 years old, sharp-eyed, expensive suit that she wore like armor. We met at a coffee shop in Morgantown. Tell me everything, she said. I did. The pregnancy, the NDA, the 3 years of silence, the will. She took notes. Didn't interrupt. When I finished, she looked up. They're going to come at you hard. They have money. They'll hire the best lawyers. They'll try to paint you as an unfit mother. The trailer. Russell's PTSD. Your financial situation. They'll offer you money to go away quietly. I won't take it. Good. Because we can win this. How? They have money, but you have the truth. And the truth is a hell of a weapon. Victoria looked at me and said, They have money, but you have the truth. And the truth is a hell of a weapon. 1 week later, a black Mercedes pulled up to Russell's trailer. 2 women got out. Diane Sullivan, Brennan's mother, and Addison Sullivan, his sister. They knocked on the door. I answered. Ms. Wyatt, Diane said. Cool. Polite. Like we were negotiating a business deal. May we come in? No. We'd like to discuss Harper's future. Harper has a future. With me. Addison stepped forward. Younger than Brennan, blonde hair in a perfect ponytail, designer handbag that probably cost more than my car. We're prepared to be very generous, she said. $75,000, lump sum, plus a college fund, $100,000, plus a trust fund that Harper can access at 18. I stared at them. In exchange for what? Joint custody. Brennan gets her every other weekend. Holidays split evenly. She lives with you primarily, but no. Diane's smile tightened. That's a lot of money to turn down. You're living in a trailer, working night shifts. Your brother is unstable. We can give Harper opportunities you never could. Opportunities? Or money? They're the same thing. No, they're not. Ms. Wyatt, think about Harper's future. Private schools, travel, college without debt, a life without... She looked around the trailer. Struggle. My daughter knows love. Does yours? Diane's face went cold. If you refuse our offer, we'll see you in court. And we have resources you can't imagine. You'll lose. Maybe. But at least I'll have fought. You're making a mistake. I've made mistakes before. This isn't one of them. They left. The Mercedes kicked up gravel dust as it drove away. Russell came out from the bedroom where he'd been listening. Harper was napping in his arms. You okay? He asked. Yeah. I looked at my daughter. Yeah, I'm okay. Diane said, we can give her a better life than this. I looked around our small trailer and said, better? Or richer? Because those aren't the same thing. My parents heard about the lawsuit through the church gossip network. Small towns. Everyone knows everything. My mother called Russell. Not me. Russell. He answered on speakerphone so I could hear. Russell, it's Sharon. Pause. How is she? How's Nanette? Where were you 3 years ago? Russell said. His voice was flat, cold. We made a mistake. A mistake? You threw your pregnant daughter out in a snowstorm. That's not a mistake, that's a choice. We want to help? Now? You want to help now? Where were you when she was giving birth alone? Where were you when she couldn't afford diapers? Where were you when CPS was threatening to take Harper because we were too poor? Silence. Does she need anything? My mother asked quietly. She needed you 3 years ago. Russell hung up. My mother called Russell and asked, does she need anything? Russell said, she needed you 3 years ago, and hung up. The courthouse in Morgantown was old brick, built in the 1920s. High ceilings, wooden benches. Brennan's lawyer was a man in a 3-piece suit. Probably $500 an hour. Briefcase that looked like it cost more than my monthly salary. Victoria showed up in a pantsuit from Macy's. But when she walked into that courtroom, she owned it. The judge was Carol Henderson, 55 years old, gray hair, reading glasses. I found out later she'd grown up in a coal mining family in southern West Virginia. Worked her way through law school at night while waitressing. She looked at both legal teams and said, let's begin. Brennan's lawyer stood, adjusted his tie. Your Honor, Mr. Sullivan seeks joint custody of his biological daughter, Harper Wyatt. He acknowledges that mistakes were made in the past, but he is now prepared to fulfill his responsibilities as a father. He can provide financial stability, educational opportunities, and a home environment that— Let me stop you there, Judge Henderson said. Where has Mr. Sullivan been for the past 3 years? Your Honor, Mr. Sullivan was advised by counsel that— I didn't ask what his lawyer told him to do. I asked where he's been. Pause. Mr. Sullivan was pursuing his career, building financial stability so that he could— So he chose his career over his daughter. That's not how we would characterize it. How would you characterize abandoning a pregnant woman and refusing all contact for 3 years? Victoria didn't say anything. She didn't have to. Their lawyer said, Mr. Sullivan can provide everything this child deserves: private schools, college funds, opportunities. Like love wasn't on that list. It happened on day 3 of the trial. Russell hadn't been sleeping. The stress was triggering his PTSD. Nightmares every night, barely eating, working himself into the ground to pay for gas money to drive me to court. That morning, he dropped Harper off at daycare, got in his truck to drive to a job site. And somewhere between the daycare and the job, he lost time. He doesn't remember what happened. He remembers Harper's face. Then nothing. Then a police officer knocking on his truck window, asking if he was okay. He'd pulled over on the side of the road, been sitting there for 2 hours, staring at nothing. The officer called an ambulance. They took him to the hospital. PTSD episode. Severe. The kind that needs immediate intervention. They put him on a 72-hour hold in the psychiatric ward. I got the call in the middle of testimony. Ms. Wyatt, This is Ruby Memorial Hospital. Your brother Russell has been admitted. I ran out of that courtroom. Victoria tried to follow, but I just said, I have to go. Found Russell in the psych ward. He was sedated, sleeping, safe, but broken. I sat next to his bed holding Harper, who was confused and scared, and thought, he gave everything, and I took it all. I stood in the hospital hallway, holding Harper, and thought, he gave everything, and I took it all. I was sitting in the waiting room, Harper asleep in my arms when they walked in. My parents. I didn't recognize them at first. My father looked older, grayer. My mother looked smaller somehow, tired. They saw me, froze. Nanette? My mother said. I couldn't speak. She came closer, slowly, like approaching a wounded animal. We heard about Russell. Is he? He's sedated. They're keeping him for 72 hours. She sat down next to me, not too close, careful. I'm so sorry, she whispered. 3 years. 3 years of silence. And those were the first words she said. For what? I asked. Not angry, just tired. So tired. For everything. For not being there. For closing the door. For... She started crying. Not loud. Just tears running down her face. My father sat on my other side. He looked at Harper sleeping. She's beautiful, he said. His voice cracked. You've never met her. I know. Silence. Let me take Harper tonight, my father said finally. You stay with Russell. We'll take care of her. Just for tonight. I should have said no. I should have thrown their offer back in their faces. But I was so tired. And Russell needed me, and Harper needed to be somewhere safe. Okay, I said. My father said, let me take Harper tonight. You stay with Russell. And for the first time in 3 years, I said yes. Court resumed the next day without me. Victoria asked for a continuance, but the judge denied it. Victoria called me that night. We need to pivot, she said. What do you mean? Their lawyers are using Russell's hospitalization. They're saying it proves you're in an unstable environment, that Harper is at risk. That's not fair. Fair doesn't matter. Strategy matters. So here's what we're going to do. We're not going to argue about money. We're not going to argue about who has the bigger house or the better career. Then what are we going to argue? Abandonment versus loyalty. I'm going to show that judge who was there, who changed diapers at 3 a.m., who gave up everything to make sure Harper was safe, and who disappeared for 3 years and only came back when money was on the line. Will it work? It better, because we're running out of time. Victoria told the judge, this isn't about who has more money, it's about who showed up. Friday, day 7 of the trial. Russell was out of the hospital, released after 72 hours. He looked hollowed out, but he was there, sitting in the back of the courtroom. My parents sat next to him. They didn't talk, just sat together. Judge Henderson called court to order. I've reviewed all testimony and evidence. I've considered the arguments from both counsel, and I've reached a decision. My heart was pounding so hard I thought everyone could hear it. Mr. Sullivan, I believe you when you say you want to be a father. I believe your intentions are sincere, but intention doesn't erase abandonment. You had 3 years to step up. You chose not to. And Ms. Wyatt, against incredible odds, created a safe, loving home for Harper. She looked directly at Brennan. Full custody is awarded to Ms. Wyatt. Mr. Sullivan will have supervised visitation, 2 hours per week. After 6 months, if he demonstrates consistent involvement, he may petition for unsupervised visitation. Child support is set at $1,650 per month. Victoria leaned over. That's not all. I asked for retroactive support. Judge Henderson continued. Additionally, Mr. Sullivan will pay a lump sum of $59,400 for the 3 years of non-payment. Ms. Wyatt Mr. Sullivan had 3 years to be a father. He chose not to. The court will not reward that choice. The gavel came down. Brennan sat there, expressionless. His mother was crying, not for Harper, but for the embarrassment. Victoria squeezed my hand. You won. But I didn't feel victorious. I just felt tired. When the judge said full custody to Ms. Wyatt, I didn't feel victorious. I felt tired. Have you ever watched someone you love break under the weight of loving you? Russell gave everything. He worked himself into the ground. He sacrificed sleep, comfort, his own health. He gave up the last thing he had from his grandfather to buy medicine that would keep my daughter alive. And I couldn't stop wondering, what would you have done? Would you have taken him in? Would you have stayed when things got hard? Or would you have walked away, like so many others did to me? I don't know what the right answer is, but I know this. The people who stay, they're the ones who matter. Not the ones with money. Not the ones with perfect lives. The ones who stay. Russell started therapy the week after he got out of the hospital. Not at the VA this time. Victoria had connected us with a private therapist, Dr. Ellen Morrison, who specialized in PTSD and did sliding scale fees for veterans. Twice a week. Russell went every single time. He also started going to a group therapy session for veterans on Thursday nights. 8 guys, all of them with ghosts, all of them trying to find their way back. He didn't talk about it much, but I could see the difference. The nightmares didn't stop, but they got less frequent. 4 times a week became 3, 3 became 2. He started sleeping again, eating again. One night, about a month after the hospitalization, I found him on the porch. He was sitting in his chair, coffee in hand, watching Harper play with chalk on the sidewalk. "How are you feeling?" I asked. "Better." He looked at me. "I'm sorry I scared you." "You didn't?" "Yes, I did. I broke. And you had to see it." "Russell, you didn't break. You bent. There's a difference." "Is there?" "Yeah. Breaking means you can't be put back together. Bending means you're still here. Still fighting. Still showing up." He was quiet for a long time. Then, "Thank you." "For what?" "For not giving up on me." Russell said, "I'm sorry I broke." I said, "You didn't break. You bent. There's a difference." Brennan's first supervised visit was at the public library. 2 hours. A social worker present the entire time. I brought Harper. She was nervous. She'd never met him. Didn't understand who he was. Brennan showed up with bags from Toys R Us. Stuffed animals. Dolls. A plastic kitchen set that probably cost $200. Harper hid behind my legs. "Hi, Harper," Brennan said. Too loud, too cheerful, trying too hard. She didn't say anything. "I brought you some toys." She looked at the bags, then back at me. "Mama, who that?" Not, "Who are you?" "Who that?" Like he was a stranger. Because he was. "This is Brennan," I said carefully. He's your biological father." She looked confused. "I have Daddy Russ." Brennan's face crumpled. He knelt down, tried to meet her eyes. "I know you have Uncle Russell. He's great. But I want to get to know you too." Harper looked at him for a long moment. Then, "Are you the man from the pictures?" "What pictures?" She pointed at me. "Mama has pictures. She said you're my... She struggled with the word. "My other daddy. But you look different." "Yeah," Brennan said quietly. "I guess I do." He spent 2 hours trying to win her over. Harper was polite but distant. She played with the toys, answered his questions in 1 or 2 words. But she kept looking at me, checking if it was okay to be here, with this stranger. At the end of 2 hours, Brennan stood up. "Can I?" He looked at me. "Can I hug her?" "You can ask her." He knelt down again. Harper, can I give you a hug goodbye? She looked at me. I nodded. She let him hug her. Stiff, uncomfortable. Then pulled away and grabbed my hand. Bye, she said politely. As we walked out, I heard him behind us, crying. Harper looked at him and asked, Are you the man from the pictures? Not Daddy, just the man. And I saw something in Brennan's face. Regret. Saturday morning, 3 weeks after the trial. I was making breakfast when I heard a truck pull up. Looked out the window. My father's F-150. He got out, went to the truck bed, pulled out a toolbox. I opened the door. Dad? Morning. What are you doing here? Your window's broken, and the porch step, and I heard the kitchen sink leaks. Dad, you don't have to. I know. He didn't wait for permission, just walked past me, toolbox in hand, and got to work. For 3 hours, he fixed things. The window that had been broken since January. The porch step Russell had been meaning to fix for months. The sink that dripped no matter how tight you turned the handle. He worked in silence. I brought him water. He nodded thanks but didn't speak. Harper woke up from her nap, came outside, watched him work. Who that? She asked. That's Grandpa Dennis. Grandpa? My father looked over. Something in his face softened. Hi, Harper, he said quietly. She waved, shy. When he finished, he packed up his tools, stood on the porch. Dad, I said. Thank you. I can't take back 3 years, he said, not looking at me, looking at his truck. But I can show up now. My throat tightened. Okay. That okay with you? If I show up? Yeah. That's a start. He didn't hug me, neither did I. But when he drove away, I thought, maybe forgiveness doesn't have to be all at once. He didn't hug me, neither did I. But when he drove away, I thought, maybe forgiveness doesn't have to be all at once. Pause. My father couldn't give me back 3 years. My mother couldn't undo the words she said. But they could show up now. And I had to decide, was that enough? Maybe you've been there. Maybe someone in your life hurt you. And now they want back in. It's not simple. It's not clean. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It means choosing, every single day, whether the person in front of you today is worth the risk. I chose to let them try. Slowly. On my terms. February 15th, 2025. Harper turned 3 years old. We had a party at the trailer. Just family. Russell made a cake. Chocolate with pink frosting that said, Happy Birthday, Harper, in wobbly letters. It was lopsided and imperfect, and the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. My parents came. They brought presents, a stuffed elephant, a set of books, a sweater my mother had knitted. It was awkward. My mother sat on one end of the couch, my father on the other. Russell stayed in the kitchen. I floated between them, trying to make it work. But Harper didn't notice the tension. She just saw people who loved her. We sang Happy Birthday. Harper blew out the candles, 3 of them, pink and white striped. She clapped her hands and shouted, I did it! What did you wish for? Russell asked. Can't tell. It won't come true. She grinned, showing all her baby teeth. After cake, Harper opened presents. She loved everything. The elephant became Ellie immediately. The books were read 3 times before bed. The sweater was too big, but she wore it anyway. At the end of the night, my parents left. My mother hugged me. Awkward, brief, but real. Thank you for letting us come, she said. Thank you for showing up. After everyone left, Russell cleaned up the kitchen. Harper fell asleep on the couch, Ellie clutched in her arms. I sat next to her, watching her breathe. 3 years old, healthy, happy, loved. And I thought about that night in February, 3 years ago. When I sat in my car with trash bags full of my life, pregnant and terrified and alone, I thought about Russell opening the door, about the hospital where Harper was born, about the EpiPens and the CPS visits, and the nights I cried myself to sleep wondering if I'd made a terrible mistake. And I thought about this moment, this small, imperfect, beautiful moment. No snow today, just sun, just love. That night, after everyone left, Harper fell asleep in my arms. Russell was washing dishes in the kitchen. I could hear the water running, the clink of plates. I could hear my parents' car pulling away down the gravel road, slowly, like they didn't really want to leave. And I thought about everything that led us here. 3 years ago, my parents told me I'd ruined my life, that I'd thrown away my future, my education, everything they'd sacrificed for. They were wrong. I didn't ruin my life. I rebuilt it. And this life, this small, loud, imperfect life, is mine. Harper shifted in my sleep, mumbled something about Ellie the elephant. Russell came out of the kitchen, drying his hands on a towel. "She out?" he asked quietly. "Yeah." He sat down next to us. We didn't speak, just sat there in the growing dark, listening to Harper breathe. This is family. Not the one I planned. Not the one I dreamed about when I was young and thought love would be easy and life would be fair. This is the family that stayed. Russell, who gave me his bed and his savings and his last piece of his grandfather's memory. My parents, who are trying, slowly, imperfectly, to be the people they should have been 3 years ago. And Harper, my daughter, my reason for everything. Brennan has his money now, his inheritance, his $8 million and his car dealerships and his big house in South Hills. But he doesn't have Harper. Not really. He can visit her 2 hours a week under supervision. He can send child support checks. He can buy her expensive toys she doesn't need. But he doesn't have her trust, her love, her sleepy 3 a.m. cuddles, or her terrible off-key singing, or the way she calls Russell Daddy Russ with absolute certainty. You can't buy those things. You can't buy family. I used to think family meant blood. I used to think success meant money. I used to think I needed my parents' approval to be whole. I was wrong about all of it. Family is the person who opens the door when everyone else closes it. Success is waking up next to your sleeping child and knowing she's safe. And wholeness? That comes from choosing yourself, choosing your child, choosing love over fear. 3 years ago, they told me I was making a mistake, that I'd regret keeping Harper, that I'd end up poor and alone and bitter. Maybe I am poor. By some measures, I am. I live in a trailer. I drive a car with 200,000 miles. I buy clothes at Goodwill and count every dollar. But I'm not alone. And I'm not bitter. I'm grateful. For Russell's nightmares that taught me courage. For the trailer that became home. For the struggle that showed me what I'm made of. For the parents who are learning, slowly, painfully, that love is more than pride. And for Harper. Always Harper. My daughter. My fighter. My proof that the best things in life aren't planned. She opened her eyes, looked up at me sleepily. "Mama? I'm here, baby. Love you. I love you too, more than anything." She smiled, closed her eyes, and drifted back to sleep. And I thought, this is enough. This is more than enough. This life, small and loud and imperfect, is mine. And I wouldn't trade it for all the money in the world,